Welcome to Through the Fear, the podcast that reminds you life begins where fear ends. Here, we share the stories of everyday people who faced their fears and discovered the incredible strength that lies on the other side. Brought to you by Wolf Mindset, this is more than a podcast. It's an invitation to find your courage, your purpose, and maybe even your pack. This is Through the Fear. Let's take the journey together to fear less,
Through the Fear
live
podcast.
more.
I am your host, Ian Q. Thank you for joining us here. And thank you. If you do enjoy this podcast, please share with your friends and spread the word, because we interview really interesting people from a variety of different worlds and backgrounds. And we explore how some of the most amazing people have come through fear and made fear their purpose or their power. They progress forward, come through the other side, and then they've turned that pain into power. I'm very pleased to say that I've got I would classify a famous hypnotist called Michael Pullman. And I think he's famous because I've seen the amazing work he's done for years and he's stuck to his niche. So I'm not going to go into too much more detail. I'm going to let him explain it. So first of all, Michael, thank you for joining us tonight. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, I don't even recognise myself from that introduction, Ian. I don't know if famous is the right word, maybe infamous. But thank you. It's great to be here. Thanks for asking me to join you this evening. So, I've been a clinical hypnotherapist now for, this is my 11th year. And my journey was an interesting one. I was a professor, never kind of grew up wanting to be a hypnotherapist, knew very little about hypnotherapy apart from what you kind of see on comedy sketches. But it was a quirky twist of fate and an attack of depression that came from nowhere that ultimately led me to my journey to become a therapist.
Wow, specialist in a certain area, aren't you, Michael? You've become a specialist.
I kind of need, specifically with women in their 40s to 60s, and I work specifically with anxiety. And all that came about from years of just wanting to help everyone, basically, with any kind of issue, and then quickly recognizing that I was trying to serve everyone and kind of ultimately serving no one. So I remember my first client was my mother. And I just really, it really made a lasting impression on the suffering my mother was going through, and just seeing her change from the time we worked together. And that just really stuck with me. And I just made a decision. I went back to the basics and decided, well, who am I happy working with, and exactly what do I want to help people with. And that led me to working with women with anxiety, and I've done that ever since.
Right, so that's where your journey is taking you, and obviously very good at what you do. And you said you didn't want to start off doing this. So did you have anxiety growing up yourself?
Yeah, so no, never, or not that I was aware. So just to let you know, I trained to be a primary teacher, and everything was going really well. And as dramatic as this sounds, but it is gospel. One Monday morning, I woke up, didn't quite feel right. And I saw, well, everyone gets those kind of Monday morning blues, don't they? And I just thought, no, this feels different. Something in my stomach, an intuition said, this is different. And I literally, from that Monday morning, never left my home for 4 months. I never went back to university. Not even to collect my belongings from there. I never left the house for 4 months. It took me several months to pick up the courage to go to the doctors. And nothing like this ran in the family, by the way, any kind of anxiety, depression, anything like that. And friends told me, as they do, especially men, just get on with it, man up, just go and have a few drinks, you'll be okay. Go on a few dates with the girls and, shake it off. But I just, something was different. And so I duly went to the doctors. They just wanted to throw citalopram at me, which I did take, because when you're desperate, doctor knows best, right? So I went to the doctors, and usually if it's anything like my local doctors, you're in and out. You might as well leave your car engine running. They're just, it's like a saloon door, you straight in, straight out. But this was an hour going through some of the most grueling and personal, intimate questions by a doctor I didn't even know. You never seem to say doctor twice, do you? At least I don't where I am. And I came out just dejected. They just, well, here's, no clear explanation of why I felt like I did. They just gave me some antidepressants and some group counselling, which was in itself caused me a higher state of anxiety, kind of one-upmanship. A group of people sitting in a circle trying to outdo each other while their life was worse than yours.
Wow. What is that? God, blimey. See, what is it like you see all sitting around in a big circle?
Yeah, it was people of a certain age might remember Monty Python. It was like a Monty Python sketch here. Everyone's sitting in a circle, right? And when you're really suffering with depression and low self-esteem, the last thing you want to do is kind of like stand up in front of a group and say, "Hi, everyone, this is who I am," and, start giving a little speech about myself. But it was literally everyone trying to outdo each other why their life was worse than yours. And there's that saying, isn't there? Misery loves company. And that was certainly true. And the turning point, that was the turning point, Ian, because I thought, and without poo-pooing the NHS, by the way, but I thought, is this the best that the NHS can do for me? To throw some antidepressants at me, where God knows what's in these antidepressants. I don't know the ingredients. I can't even pronounce them, let alone know what the raw materials are in them. And the group counselling, is that really the best? What am I supposed to do now? And I quickly realised that only I could get myself out of this hole. It was all going to be down to me. And it was a real effort. When you're depressed, you just don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
But I knew I had to do something to get me out of the position I was in. And as I say, when you're desperate, you'll look at anything. You'll try all sorts of random things that you would not usually look for. And with the power of Google, I looked for help, anxiety, depression. Hypnotherapy came up quite a lot, which surprised me because I only thought it was kind of look into my eyes and, they're kind of clicking fingers and bark like a dog and what you see on the stage. But I did my own due diligence and found clinical therapist, quite literally.
I just got the fact that you did your due diligence and research and found a hypnotherapist.
Yeah, so I went to see, I was really desperate for help, and I just found the most expensive therapist I could find and I could afford. And I literally had 6 sessions, and it just changed my life so incredibly, to such an extent that I remember at the end of the 6th session, I said, Peter, his name was Peter Field, Broad Street, Birmingham. He's no longer with us, God rest his soul. And I said, Peter, thank you so much. I have to ask you, how do you do what you do? How can I learn what you do? Because it's kind of like the magic circle. You don't exactly see it. Well, you didn't, 10 years ago, advertised on the side of double-decker buses, be a clinical hypnotherapist. It was kind of shrouded in mystery. And I said, I'll go anywhere, Peter. I will go anywhere in the world. I will pay any price. Just tell me where I need to go. And he started scribbling a name down, and I got really excited. And he said, this is the best place as far as I'm concerned where you need to go and train. And you don't know what you don't know. So I thought, wow, I'm going to look at this bit of paper he's written on, and it's going to say California or Tokyo or Adelaide or somewhere. And it was Essex. And all I knew about Essex was like poetry, but little did I know that it was such a hive of psychotherapeutic activity down there, and such a wonderful place of clinical learning. And I trained with Terence Watts at the prestigious Essex Institute, one of the last people to train there. And it was just an incredible time for me. And it enabled me. I remember training, and my mom was going through these panic attacks as she had been for a couple of decades. And she said, son, when you qualified, can you help me? And I said, Mum, if you're the only client I ever had, and just to clarify, when I say client, I never charge her a penny, Ian. I'm not that ruthless, okay? But she was the first person I helped, and it was just one session we had together, and a panic attack prohibited her from getting on an aeroplane. Or, I beg your pardon, she got on an aeroplane, triggered panic attacks. We had one session the very next day. She booked a family holiday for us all, and she's gone on holiday abroad every year since with no panic attacks whatsoever.
Wow, amazing. And
So it was worth it just for that. But that, if I had no other clients, if the education I got from the Essex Institute, if it got me nowhere other than I was just able to help my own mom, bless her, and just pay something back for all the help and support she gave me, then I'd have been a happy man.
That sounds incredible. And you said about this feeling that you had. Was that classified as depression then before you went to this hypnotherapist? Was that depression, would you say it was?
They clarified it as depression. And what I later learned, a lot of the questionnaires a doctor will go through is created by a lot of the pharmaceutical companies. Now,
Yeah.
talk about rigged debt, and that in gambling terms, that the house always wins. Can you imagine that? But they just asked a very few personal questions. I can't remember because I felt so. For me, depression was, if I gave it words, it was just one word. It was disconnect. A disconnect from myself, from my family, from life itself. But yeah, they classed it as a clinical depression, which none of my family ever suffered with it. I'd had low points, as we all do, a lack of energy, motivation, but not for such a prolonged period in my life. I did, I have told people this before, I did actually plan my own suicide.
Wow.
I did go to great depth to look at ways that I was going to kill myself.
Some people feel like there's no hope, and people hearing that there is things out there. So it's very nice of you to share, because I think people listening to this can actually get that extra confidence that there are many methods, isn't there, to get help, and you obviously found your way. And not only did this journey help you, how many people would you say you've now helped from beating anxiety?
I word this very carefully, helping people to help themselves. It's got to be in the thousands, really. But I say this, and I don't say it might be provocative, Ian, but I'll say because I believe it. Depression was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
Because it was a conflict. I wasn't aligned. I was trying to be something that I didn't really want to be. Going back to the teaching, I'd been made redundant 3 jobs in a row. And I guess for the Maslow's hierarchy, I just wanted safety and security. And trying to be a primary teacher, it was like the safest job in the world.
Yeah.
And I just was trying to force something that wasn't for me, and my body was letting me know it. So it was a blessing for me in the end. So I've gone from kind of looking to take my own life to having it as a wonderful lesson learned. But yeah, I've worked with thousands, I'd say, people, Ian, not just from my office locally. I had 3 offices at one point, bricks and mortar offices, but clients all over the world. With the great thing with social media and technology now, you can connect with people all over the world and help them. So
now there's going to be some people here listening, wondering what is it that you do that makes you such a good therapist? So are you happy to share some of your secrets into how you would deal with someone's anxiety? What are some of the methods that you use, if you're happy to share with us?
yeah, I am. I get asked this question a lot, Ian, and I'm so blessed. I'm only as good as the client opposite. So, I have all 5-star reviews. They're not my reviews, they're my clients. And a lot of people, especially therapists, want to know, well, what's the go-to technique?
Yeah, they love it. They want to know the gold. There can only be one golden bullet.
Nugget.
I don't want to bet. Oh, no, I did all this other stuff. No, there's got to be one.
Yeah, you're right. And I'm going to try not to mention, or maybe I should just mention some of the training and the techniques. But I always find, and I've been doing this a long time, the thing to go in vogue 1 minute is you have to learn this technique. This is the go-to. and then it falls out of favor, and then there's something else, right? And then everyone uses that for a while, and then that falls by the wayside. This might sound a cop-out, but I'm going to give you the greatest technique to use with a client that is almost foolproof.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is the cop-out bit, because everyone's got probably, therapists here have got the pen and paper ready to write it down.
Go on. I think I know what's coming. Go on.
Okay, you might do. Do you want to spoil it and tell me?
No. You go for it. Go for it.
The best technique to help the client is always the crucifixion. Okay, it's simply this: rapport. It is rapport. It is listening to person opposite, and it is just building a know, like, and trust till you get to the point where the client wants to resolve their issues for you as much as they do themselves.
Yeah.
That is how powerful it is.
Yeah.
I've used all kind of techniques, and, I'm happy to mention specific ones, not a problem. And sometimes they have worked, sometimes they haven't. More often than not, they all work if you've built that rapport with someone and you've just built that connection, and you can't beat that. And rapport, it's in every, not just therapy, but it's the communication, isn't it? It's in business, it's with family. It's just building that rapport and that connection with someone where they know that you get them.
Yeah.
And you understand, got that empathy, that relatability. Then it really doesn't matter the technique, because they've just wholly bought into you and what you can offer them. So I'd say it's that, because so many therapists are just, they collect certificates, don't they? They're just always on a course, looking for the next best thing, where really they already have everything. They just need to use their personality.
Yeah.
They just need to use their empathy and sensitivity and kind of just talk. Tell me about yourself. What's happening? What do you think? Where does that stem from, do you think? And how do you feel about that? It's just building that, helping them to open up more. That's the technique I find first and foremost works, is just building that rapport.
Yeah, there's a lot of therapists I know who'd rather, they say, I will start practicing when I've got, and then another certificate comes up and they get another one, but they won't go out there. And actually, when I did mine, I did the hypnosis thing and I jumped straight in. I was seeing clients way before I went on to the next thing. And that's the best way, just learning. But I wasn't going to say rapport, but I liked your answer so much better than mine.
What was yours then, Ian?
Well,
what was yours?
My answer is having a good knowledge of anxiety in the brain and explaining it to the client. But then I do think that the rapport does help, because if you explain to someone you haven't got the rapport, you can have that kind of that barrier. If you've got the rapport and they trust you, you can say, look, I need you to try this. And again, the podcast is called Through the Fear. A lot of anxiety is on the other side of that fear. It is, I'm scared of this. But then once it's a lot of that anxiety, obviously you've got the nervous system anxiety, or the stuff that's built up in cells in the body. But also you've got the anxiety, which is that future catastrophizing, and obviously
it's that perceived threat.
Yeah.
I think you were right, but I think it also underlined the importance of rapport, because when you say that ability to help a client understand what anxiety is, people understand differently. When you built that rapport and you know your client, the analogies you use about what anxiety is, if you've got someone opposite you who's quite analytical, like for instance, I've worked with a lot of engineers and teachers. To explain anxiety, I would use relatable terms that they can understand. So kind of blueprints, or we use like the subconscious and the logical brain we align it. It's like a Bluetooth. We might use like circuitry, terms like that, and internet. Whereas if you work with artists, people are a bit more abstract. People are a bit more going out in nature, and they're not into tech. You'd have to relate it in a completely different way.
Yeah.
And it's knowing the client and building that rapport that they get it.
Yeah. And I think
it's not just a structured, it's important for you to know it, obviously, but it's not as important as helping the client to understand it. And it's no good that we can describe what anxiety is verbatim, because we know that, because we've read the script over, we've done the training, but we have to remember, for the client, it's the first time they're hearing this.
Yeah.
So we really have to sell it in a
their
way they can
world.
really buy into it.
Yeah. Don't try to get them to understand it from your map of the world. Let's go into their map of the world. And again, if you haven't built the rapport, they'll often say it's easier said than done, and you go, right, I haven't quite got there yet.
Yeah, exactly.
So Michael, I'll just to let everybody here know that, guys, I've got the chat open. If you've got any questions for Michael, please type them in. I'll carry on talking with Michael, and then I'll answer questions. Michael, if I can now slightly move on, unless there's any questions that pop up, you've recently, and I hope it's okay for me to ask this, you've recently had a transformation. We spoke and we was going to do this podcast, and you said, "Hang on a minute, I can't do it yet. So I'm pretty much going through a transformation, and I want to share it with the world at some point." And I wanted to tell the story first, what I saw. I went, "Yeah, no problem." So we postponed it, and the next minute, right, is a picture of you absolutely ripped, ripped on Facebook, bronzed up, big smile, and going, this is what I've achieved, and it was incredible to see.
Thank you.
So what took you on to that journey, and is that in relation to what we're talking about tonight, or is that something completely different?
It is connected. So again, a very personal story. A couple of years ago, I came out of a toxic relationship, and I felt really embarrassed because I'm a therapist. So I'm supposed to read the signs. I'm supposed to know the red flags. I'm supposed to be able to see them from afar. And I didn't. And I felt very embarrassed about that. And it's taken me some time to process and reflect on the things I missed, to stop blaming myself and give myself permission to be human. And I got to a stage in May last year where I thought, I'm not happy. I'm content, but I want to be happier. I want to be a better version of me. And I'm talking in health, in fitness, in my business. I thought I could carry on the way I'm going, and there's nothing wrong with that. But then I thought I could get more out of myself. I could be a better version of me. Am I going to stick or twist? And I've got no right to tell clients to invest in themselves if I'm not prepared to invest in me and lead by example. So I joined a program that has completely changed my life. It's now intrinsically linked with my business. And yes, so from May last year up until December last year, so there was 7 months where I lost 45 pounds, so about 21, 22 kilos of fat, went from 25% body fat to about 6.5, changed my metabolic age. So I'm 46 now, but on the scales, I've kind of tricked AI is supposed to be, you can't trick it, right? It's supposed to be more intelligent than I got on the scales with my height, my body structure, the bone density, the muscle, and a 46-year-old stepped on the scales and it said, "You're 31.
Well, yes.
So I took 15 years off my life according to the scales. So that was nice, but I feel younger than 31 anyway. I've never felt so good, Ian. And a lot of the lessons I took from that health and fitness journey, I'm specifically putting into my new business venture. So there's a transformation on both parts, both on a personal physical scale and also with the business moving forward.
Yeah. I'll ask you about that business in a minute if that's
Yeah.
a stage where you could share. If I just talk about
It is.
our journey I'm on at the moment. So I've been doing well, when you're creatures of habit like us, and we've got other therapists here as well, I always like to learn. And at the moment, so I feel like I've learned about anxiety. Of course, there's always more to learn, but I've exhausted, feels like exhausted for now, anxiety. I've been sort of specialised in that area for a long time, in stress. And I tell you where I've slowly been moving towards, and it's similar to your journey, which is diet and ketones and ketosis and
Yeah.
mitochondria and glucose and the brain, and how sometimes these things that we have got going on, again, we always say it's a mindset, but a lot of it can actually be what we're feeding ourselves. And there's new science. I've been watching a lot of these scientists on different podcasts and doing my own research about how the amount of insulin that we're having in our body and not given it a chance to lower means that there's some stuff which is stuck in our minds, in our joints, in our bodies, that doesn't get a chance to clear out. And when somebody gets in, it's not all about being in good shape, but when somebody gives eating a rest and insulin can drop, it allows those ketosis to take place and get rid of and flush out a lot of the stuff. That's what the benefits of fasting, which is a long coming away in science. Is that
Mhm.
something that was your journey as well, Michael? Was it a bit slightly different?
I've learned and I've experienced things like going into ketosis.
Mm.
I've done fasts that have lasted like 84, 85 hours.
Wow, long.
I've tried a lot of different things, Ian. My journey since May, interestingly, hasn't included anything along the lines of intermittent fasting or juicing or carnivore diets at all. The kind of program and my new learning, it doesn't involve any kind of fasting at all. In fact, it's heavily connected with the nervous system. And I've got, as if by magic, a prop here, so I don't know if anyone can see that. But if we imagine that to be one of the trillions of cells in our body, what actually happens is that the mitochondria, so imagine the cells are like a battery, and we need to charge that, obviously. And what happens when we get inflammation in the cells, it stops all the waste coming out and all the good nutrients and vitamins going in. So what I've experienced personally is a lot of the times I felt anxious or stressed was actually inflammation in the body and stress on the nervous system. So a part of what I've learned, Ian, and on this healthcare journey is actually how important, and this sounds like a silly statement, but how important our blood is, and really digging deep into blood tests and blood results and the way our health and our weight is linked specifically to blood, our blood, and how unique it is to all of us. So everything from the weight loss I've experienced, and it isn't just the weight loss. I now have less brain fog. I have more energy. I weigh far less, but I'm actually physically stronger. I have better mental clarity, less inflammation, better gut digestion. I mean, the list is endless. Better skin condition, and all that I can directly link to my bloods.
See, that's really interesting, because what I've studied in relation to blood relation to glucose and health and diet is one thing, but one area that fascinates me, but I don't know where to start, is the area you're
Yeah.
just touching on, which is blood. And I'll tell you why. I've always been interested in doing these tests, but then there doesn't seem to be a company which does. It's kind of bloods which go, well, we'll do omega, or we'll do testosterone, or we'll do, something specific, and you
Yeah.
think, whoa, where do I start?
Yeah, I appreciate that. And, it's always important to do your due diligence. Going back to you talking about kind of ketones and sugars and what have you, is they go a deeper level than the food. So that's great. You're going deeper, but you cannot go any deeper than your bloods. And that's what I love the research, because you're working at a cellular level. And one of my gripes, again, I'm not poo-pooing the NHS, but how often, anyone listening, have you had a blood test and the results will be, oh, they've come back normal? Now,
Mm.
what is normal? They just take an average, They take an average of, say, an 18-year-old girl to an 88-year-old man. They just take an average. So what can normal be?
Yeah.
And this is the important thing, that you're right. There's so many different kinds of blood tests. But for anyone listening, and if it helps, so part of what I do in my business and what I offer is you need to look at something like a blood test that offers biomarkers. So specifically 55 biomarkers in the blood. You can go up to 200, but 55 are kind of like, they hit the sweet spot. And the biomarkers, basically, they're the signs of on a motorway. They're the signals that you need to know where your bloods are at. So when bloods come back normal through the NHS, many people think, well, that's great. You know, doctor says it's normal, I'm normal. But if you think about it, maybe in life you want a bit more than normal or average. I know I certainly did. So with the benefit of having the right bloods tests, you can see that 55 biomarker range. I hope I'm not getting too technical in.
Give it a go. Good.
But when you read those different markers, they will tell you what ranges they are. And then with modern science and supplementation, you can actually optimize all of those levels. So you could say you're in a mid-range, an average range, and you think, well, that's okay, then satisfactory. But when you match the right supplementation and the right dosage with those biomarkers, you actually top up the markers. So, you know, the analogy, let's say that the difference is this: your bloods are average could be the equivalent of a car that the tires are kind of low and the oil is low and the water levels are low and the fuel is low. And the difference is when you connect the dots, it's like, imagine driving with the correct tire pressure, with the correct oil, water, fuel. Doesn't the car handle so much differently? Imagine what's that for your body when your bloods are fully optimized. And what it's enabled me is, as I say, to sleep better, less stress, less inflammation, better digestion with my food, greater strength, energy levels are through the roof. Even though I've lost so much weight, I'm actually in a physically stronger position. All that has come from the bloods, Ian.
Wow. So Nicola said, she just mentioned earlier when you was talking about rapport, actually, she mentioned about, it was a great point. Sometimes she's a very popular therapist and she says she forgets sometimes to remember that the client doesn't know what she knows. And it's easy to forget. If you keep saying some of our gems over and over again, you just kind of begin to assume the next person's just going to begin to know it. But she just mentioned she's had her full bloods done, and a colleague of mine in the field you're talking about is looking at them for me to work out what's going on. So yeah,
Brilliant.
so
Right.
that's the people here are interested. I'm very interested in blood work, Michael. So is this your new venture, which is moving into blood?
It is. Well, first of all, hello, Nicola. I hope you're well. It's nice to see you. And yeah, what I want to offer my clients and what I've offered them for so long, Ian, I know this isn't a shameless plug, but you've asked, so I'll just tell you where I'm at. So we work at a psychological level with clients, and that's great. But I'm hungry for more for my clients. You know, I'm removing my own ego and thinking that I and only I and my approach is the ultimate answer. It isn't.
Mm-hmm.
So I've created a program which we actually launch next Monday that's going to work with clients in their 40s to 60s, specifically ladies, burnt out, professional women suffering with trauma and emotional overwhelm. And we're going to work at a psychological, physiological, and at a cellular level. We actually have a program where it's multi-layered and we leave no stone unturned. So we now work with private labs in several countries, including Australia, Dubai, America, Ireland, and the UK. And what we will facilitate is a concierge blood optimization service. So in simple terms, wherever you are, we will have a trained phlebotomist to come and take your bloods, whether it's at home, whether it's at work, to take your bloods. And our unique private labs will specifically test them within that 55 biomarker range that we spoke about. And then we have a fantastic in-house team that are experts in understanding the numbers from the bloods. And not only that, they've got a fantastic ability and rapport to work with the client to break it down so it's not an overwhelm. It's not just a big scientific PDF with nothing but jargon. We will communicate what the bloods mean to the client. And not only that, we create a unique supplement stack. So we can identify the exact supplements and the exact dosages to optimize their blood. So we start at a reset level where we help reduce the inflammation, which is often the cause of the actual anxiety that people experience. And then we have a program that works with our therapists who we have in-house, who will work on a one-to-one and group basis, as well as a huge online portal, think of like a digital Netflix, a therapeutic Netflix, which is open 24/7 a day. And those clients at every level get help and support, as I say, at a psychological, physiological, and a cellular level.
Wow. So sounds
There
really
you go.
interesting, mate. There we go. Boom. Boom. Mic
Boom.
drop. Yeah. So cellular level is where that's what I mean. That's something that's I'm gonna have to look into explore. It sounds similar to the way that I looked at it is that from when people saw anxiety, it was one it. So then what I was finding with my clients was there's more to this. There's more to than just this feeling. So that's where I came up with the thing that I call it. I've got a rise journey, which I talk
Mhm.
about first of all is for anybody who is struggling. First of all, is their identity. Who is it? What's their purpose? Where do they want to go? And that kind of let's thrash it out. Because if you don't know where you're going, or if you're
Yeah.
happy where you are, so it's looking at that. And then I've got rest intake, as in your intake mentally and what your diet is, your strength and empowerment, which is basically your self-esteem and bits and pieces like that. And that has
Yeah.
done some wonders. And that gives us the power to fear less, live more, and overcome the barriers. But it is,
It's a
like you
great
said,
level.
it is
Yeah.
so much more because people think, well, it's to do with our sleep patterns. It's to do with, so people just want a quick plaster on something. And that's one where I think some people can go wrong. They can get
Yeah.
rid of some problems and it'll be quick and the person will notice a change. But
Yeah.
eventually, some of the habits will creep up. Like you say, inflammation isn't just about the mindset. It is a cellular level. It is about what they're
Yeah.
eating. It is their sleeping patterns, who they're hanging around with on a daily level, sort of thing. So there's
Absolutely.
whole load of things, and it sounds really interesting thing that you got going on there. So yeah, well done. I mean
It's
that.
great, Ian, but it's great. It's going deeper at the deepest root, because even, as I'm sure you know, you'll agree, even with the greatest willpower and positive mental attitude, you know, if you still struggle to get to sleep, and it doesn't mean, well, you've got a bad attitude, you're a negative person, but you just can't get to sleep, no matter how positive your mindset is, or how much walking you've done, or what kind of food you've eaten. If it's at an even deeper cellular level, then it's not your fault, but you can still think that, you know, you're not doing something right, or you're not good enough, or you need to try even harder, when actually it isn't. It's at a deeper, even deeper than psychological. We're talking, as I like to call it, science with soul.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is one layer of it that you and I, you know, we're masters at working with.
Mm.
But as I say, I think the future will be looking at helping at a cellular level, because
Mm.
it doesn't get deeper than that. Yeah, that's the deepest you can ever go. And when you work from the very deepest root upwards, everything just connects and get even better.
Wow. So for listeners who wanted to start just at a basic blood work level with those 55, is there a link or a company that you could tell us about to start off that very basic cellular level check?
Yeah. So I mean, One of the ones in the UK is called, and I'll be working soon with them, but I'm not a commissioner or anything, but you ask, is Youth Revisited. That's a UK company based, I believe, in the north of England. I don't have their website, but Youth Revisited, and they've got all kind of bloods for men, women. It's a whole different range that you can take. I'm not a doctor. I can't obviously give the medical advice, but if I were you, and what I had personally was something like the 55 biomarker blood test.
Yeah, interesting.
But I would always urge, do your due diligence, have a good look. If people want to get in touch with me personally and ask any further questions, then I'm happy, and I'm hopefully very approachable.
Yeah, you are right, Michael. We're very much. I'm going to back you up on that. Nicholas saying without being a conduit of catching up. Nicholas also says, "Lovely to see you too. It's been a long time." So, Michael, so people will be listening. They might be stuck in a rut. They might be in a position where you once was. They might have anxiety. Who knows? What would your advice be? This is going to be some of the last closing questions, but somebody who's listening to this, what would your basics advice to start people getting the journey from where they are stuck to unstuck? What sort of advice would you start to get them on that journey of health?
I think if we look at the basics, people say, well, it's hard, it's difficult, it's just how I am. I think all we are in life is we're learning machines. You either know or you don't know. Great thing history has told us, we go from, we don't know how to do something, then we learn how to do it, we do it, and then the next thing is we don't know and we learn. So however you feel, whether it's anxious, whether it's depressed, low self-esteem, confidence, you'll have systematically learned that. And that's the great thing, because as I say, you've learned it, you can unlearn it, you can learn a different way. So the most powerful thing to start you on that journey of progression of healing is why. Why is it so important? Why don't you just stay the way you are? What is your why? Maybe, you want to be connected with your family again. You want the self-respect. You want to earn more money, and you want that yacht in the Mediterranean. What is your why? That has to be your catalyst, your motivation to slingshot you out of where you are. Because there's a saying, comfort is the enemy of progress. So it's all about moving from where you are. Your why, as a cliche, your why has to be bigger.
Yeah.
And the ability to know, and I just want to say this from a very personal perspective, there's nothing special about me. I just realized that the only person that could get me out of the depressive state I was in was me. And that's the great thing, because it's all my fault. If I failed, it was all my fault. If I succeeded, it was all my fault. So the great thing is, it's in your hands. It's in your hands. You just have to believe, why are you so different that you can't resolve the pain that you're currently in? And you're not any different. You're not. You just have to believe that you can. And your why has to be the catalyst to move from where you are now.
Yeah. I think that is what a great. It's almost like you'd had that written out on a post-it note above it. It came off somewhere like some Rocky Balboa thing. What is your why? Yeah, we're going to put some motivational tracks on the back of that bad boy and put that out. Of course I do, but I completely agree with you, Michael. And I like, there's one word that you said as well at the end, and that's belief. Because some people, they do, like you talked about, the circle of misery. Some people are stuck, but some people like to be stuck. They don't want to believe that there's help. They actually thrive on the energy that people give them because they're in that place, and so they get that kind of, I need help and get the support. So until you shift it, and that can be momentarily of going, I don't want this anymore, I can't live like this. Stop labeling it as an identity thing. It's I am an anxious person. It's who I am.
Get rid of the label. My journey from trying to kill myself, that change started one day when I managed to walk from my front door the 20 feet to the end of my drive and walk back in again. That was progress. That was huge. And I did it 2 days in a row. Then the third day, I did it 2 days, twice in one day. And then I walked round the block, and then I walked a mile. Then I managed to go into a shop. It started just very, very small. Just chunk it down, because if you have too much of an overwhelm, too much of a big vision, we have a tendency, especially men, without generalizing, I'll just jump in. But it's just, you need that little modicum of success, just that little taste, just to wet your beak. So it's just the little things, the little victories, the little things you can tick off until you can see at the end of the week, wow, I've got a full list of things I've ticked off. Yeah. And then just to give you that momentum and self-belief until it's almost a case of it is going to happen. Not out of arrogance, but just a quiet assertiveness that I am going to achieve this. This is going to happen. It's almost like a matter of fact. It's a done deal. And it's not arrogance, but I'm just focusing, and I'm disciplined, and I'm just going to keep doing the little things, because it's the little differences that make the difference.
Yeah, a tiny step is better than no step, because people think, oh, it was just this. No, it's not, because that's how people have great momentum. It's people that don't quit. They go, or they sometimes stumble backwards and fail. Well, you didn't fail, you learned, you got up, and you know that you could do it differently, and just keep progressing. And that's the same with business. It's the same with relationships, isn't it? We just keep stepping forward and stuff.
So change the way you look at it. Yeah.
Michael, I just want to say a big thank you for.
Oh, you're welcome.
It was really nice to have you here. So I just want to say thank you to the listeners. Please like and share. Michael has been an absolutely fabulous guest. Reach out to him. Michael, before we go, any website that people can find you on, they're listening here?
There currently isn't, because I've just jumping from my old model, and the new launch is Monday. I'm on Facebook. People can connect with me there. Just Michael Pullman, the anxiety coach, or on my personal page. But yeah, I'm really excited for next week, and I'm really grateful for your time, Ian, and for everyone who's asked a question and who's watched today.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Michael, and I'll catch you later.